What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Weekend Preview here on Hypermark. I'm Adam Beadle. I hope everybody had a very fun and joyous and eventful and enjoyable Christmas with their families, or if you didn't celebrate Christmas, you had a happy holidays. I didn't actually do much for Christmas because my family decided to come into town for New Year's. We're gonna go to the Fiesta Bowl, so we're gonna do Christmas on Christmas Day actually. So Christmas Day should be pretty eventful with a certain game going on that day. But no, I went over to my dad's and we did Christmas with my grandparents. And then my mom's side will do Christmas on New Year's Day. So looking forward to it, and still keeping the holidays rolling. So I still got the Christmas tree. Other way, I still got the Christmas tree up back there, and still enjoying that. And yeah, it has been a pretty eventful couple days. I was at the Guaranteed Rate Bowl last night, which was, I mean, that was a great college football game. That's one of the better college football games I've gotten to watch in person this season. Kansas State with their 17-point comeback, 44-41 over Rutgers. And man, Dylan Edwards is a beast. I'm so glad he transferred from Colorado. I genuinely think that he wouldn't have gotten necessarily the same. And he didn't have the biggest year, obviously, with Giddens there too. They kind of split the snaps. But I'm glad that Dylan got a game to like just be the star and shine and run out there, because he's a great back. I think 196 yards on 18 carries and 3 touchdowns yesterday, which is pretty impressive. A pretty good game from him all around. Exciting game. Avery Johnson did pretty good. The Kansas State didn't really pass the ball a whole lot yesterday. So not much from that standpoint. And Rutgers, I didn't realize. I got to that game and I'm watching Rutgers play, and I was like, man, Rutgers has some like big dudes. Like, yeah, they might be 7-5 now, but like I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my mic right here. Rutgers has some really big dudes, like size, and I saw that across, like, their wide receivers were big, their defensive linemen were big, their quarterback was pretty big too. I mean, he had some height to him and he had some bigger pads on, so that might have just been what it was. But Rutgers is a big team. They put up a good fight, but Kansas State and the Big 12 obviously getting the job done at the end of it there. So yeah, that's pretty much been the last couple of days. Headed out to the Arizona Bowl tomorrow between Colorado State and Miami, Ohio, which should be a lot of fun. I'm excited to watch that game and cover that game. And Colorado State, I did, I put the preview out on Hypermark for them. Still working on the preview for Miami, Ohio. But Colorado State, you talk about a team that, one thing goes right for them, and they're in the Big 12, or it's not Big 12, Mountain West Championship, playing up against Ashton Genty in Boise State. Obviously they took the huge loss to Texas at the beginning of the season, but if that game against Fresno State goes their way, we're watching Colorado State and Boise State in the Mountain West Championship, which I think would have been a really good game. Some local Arizona high school football players going to be in that one. Jack Howe from Hamilton High School only played his senior year there at Hamilton. I guarantee you Jack doesn't even know I went to high school with him for a year. But he'll be playing in that bowl game for Colorado State. Should be excited to watch him. Keegan Shank from Chaparral will be playing in that game. Stephon Daly, wide receiver from Sierra Linda, is also going to be playing in that game. So should be a lot of fun to watch. I'm excited to see that one go down in Miami, Ohio, too. The MAC runner-up. And I mean, that Ohio team, Parker Navarro, talk about another Arizona high school football alum who killed it for Ohio this season, killed in the bowl game, did a great job. I was watching the bowl game. Man, there's been some good bowl games. Let's talk about that for a second. How about San Jose State and South Florida going to 5 overtimes in Hawaii on Christmas Eve? I mean, you talk about action. You talk about just fun. That game was a lot of fun. I was just sitting on my couch watching a Christmas movie, and all of a sudden, I didn't watch any of the game prior to the overtimes, but I saw that they were going to like a third overtime, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I got to turn this on. So I turned it on, and the ending was fun. I can't believe that one dude caught it. I think it was for South Florida. He caught it, would have won the game, but bro was out of bounds. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. You gotta be kidding. Oh, what's that? We got a little. Anybody else see that? It's like the glare from my glasses and my. I don't know. Anyways, yes, I do have glasses, by the way. They're a little dirty right now, so I won't put them up to screen, but I wear contacts normally, so I don't think a lot of people see me with glasses too often. But it felt one of those days where, I was like, got out of bed. I was like, you know what? I think it feels like a glasses day. So we put on the glasses today, and we're rocking with that. Let's talk about some of the stuff that happened last weekend / during Christmas. Obviously, the Suns got a big win on Christmas Day. I think it was their first win on Christmas Day. I got to look at this because I don't want to get this wrong. Suns' first Christmas Day win since 2009, I think. 2009. 16 years. What is that? What's 2024? I don't know how to do math. Yeah, 2009, right? Yeah, 2009. So crazy. Booker, or not Booker, Durant and Beal going for 27. That was pretty insane. So that game was a lot of fun to watch, especially against the Nuggets too. I think that's a good rivalry that has been built up the last couple of years is the Suns and the Nuggets, especially with both of the teams being in the NBA Finals and just kind of at the top of their division in the Western Conference each year. So then we got to talk about the Arizona Cardinals, who year after year after year, you always start the conversation with the Cardinals. There's always at the beginning of the year, like, oh, they got some dudes. This might be the time where they finally get things going, get things clicking, make a playoff run. And to be honest, that's what this Cardinal team did look like at times of the season. That they looked like a team that was coming together. They were going to click. They were going to put up a great run and Gannon's second year and be able to, make the playoffs. And they decided to go into Carolina and not only lose, but lose in overtime to a team that arguably probably had its best game all season. I think that was probably Bryce Young's best game so far this season from a competitive standpoint. And they lost. I mean, I'm going to be the one to kind of start, not necessarily start because I think it's been for a while, but there's been people have been sitting on the edge about Kyler Murray for so long and like, oh, I think it started with the whole ACL injury, which I get it. Tough injury to come back to. And I think people have kind of been like, oh, he's still working. He didn't have any weapons last year. Well, now you got a weapon. And I understand that Marvin Harrison. Also, sorry I've got my window open right now, which I should probably close that, but I'm not going to. I keep getting off topic. Sorry. Obviously the conversation last year, Kyler Murray, he doesn't have any weapons. Well, now he does. He's got Marvin Harrison Jr. And I know that Marvin Harrison didn't exactly have the year he would have wanted, which, by the way, I was listening to Arizona Sports this morning, and they were talking about how Marvin Harrison is having kind of a similar year to what his dad had his rookie season. He only had like 50% catch rate, and that's the same Marvin has. Marvin's got like 10 less receptions and like 100 less yards. But the one thing that stuck out about that conversation was something happened in the later years of Marvin Harrison, obviously with the Colts, as they brought in Peyton Manning. And obviously I don't think the Cardinals are going to bring in a player the caliber of Peyton Manning. But I think it might not be a bad time to kind of start talking about the next quarterback in Arizona. I think Kyler Murray has done a good job for what has needed to be done within the last few years. Obviously, not getting Arizona to the playoffs has been the biggest thing, but I think it's time to finally just let it go and say that Kyler Murray was not the guy that Arizona wanted him to be or thought he would be. So with that, I think we start to look ahead. We look at the draft. We go, okay, who's going in? Obviously, I think there's two names right off the bat that stand out. Although I don't think either of them are going to be available for when it comes time for the Cardinals to pick. Two guys I'm talking about, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. I've seen some mock drafts where Cam Ward is the number one overall pick to the Giants. I don't think Cam Ward, although I think he's a really great quarterback, obviously being a Heisman finalist this season has been great. Obviously, what he has, his story is great too, coming from an FCS school to Washington State and then going to Miami. Great story, great quarterback. Although, and this bugs me to say it as much as I'm thinking it right now, and I think my mind could easily be changed for the next couple of weeks or months. But I think that Shedeur Sanders has higher NFL longevity potential than Cam Ward does at the moment. I haven't really necessarily seen, and I think the big thing is just that Shedeur Sanders is one of the best, not one of the best, but one of the better pocket passers I think we've seen in a couple of years. Obviously, he's had some pretty good targets the last couple of years, some good guys to throw to, which has been good. And Cam Ward, I think, should get a lot of credit because he hasn't necessarily had a lot of those top targets. Obviously, Shedeur's got a guy like Travis Hunter. That makes a whole lot of world difference. Jimmy Horn, who I think is one of the most underrated wide receivers in college football. I just don't see a world where an NFL team takes Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders. Now, I definitely think that's something that's a take of mine. I think could change over the next couple of months. I think that's also, I think a lot more will kind of be brought up on that topic, especially when we get closer to the Senior Bowl and to the draft. Because now you've got guys like Jackson Dart from Ole Miss who just declared for the draft. You're going to have guys like Dillon Gabriel who are entering the draft. And I think Dillon Gabriel is a fantastic quarterback, even though he's dealt with injuries. He's been bouncing around from place to place. It'll be interesting to see just kind of this whole world on fall and quarterbacks. I think there is going to be somewhere in this next draft, and the quarterback might not necessarily be the main priority for the Arizona Cardinals heading into the draft, but I definitely do think that it is something that Monty Ossenfort and this team are going to be, that I think that's something they're going to have on their mind. So I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for that. All right. Another thing that happened from last weekend, ASU getting a big ASU basketball, that is, getting a big win over UMass thanks to another great performance from Jaden Quaintance. Put up another double-double. Quaintance only 18 blocks away now from passing Mario Bennett for ASU's freshman blocks record. Also, 9-2 record for the Sun Devils, the best start for Bobby Hurley and his team since that 12-0 start in the beginning of the Guard U area, and then obviously that 9-2 record surpassing the 2022-23 team that ended up making the NCAA tournament. So this as we exit non-conference play, ASU getting ready to start their first year in the Big 12, and I'm going to go out and say it right now. I don't think that there's a team, and there might be, but ASU has one of, if not the toughest January schedules in the country. I mean, you start BYU. You start with BYU in the Big 12 conference play. That's on December 31st. Then you get into January. You got to play Colorado, Kansas, Baylor, UCF, Cincinnati, West Virginia, Iowa State, and Colorado again. So first of all, that's 4 ranked teams alone. And those are 4 ranked teams, 2 of which are 100% national championship contending programs. And the 2 other ones are teams that are going to likely make it far into the NCAA tournament. A team like Baylor, who's consistently good year after year, which I saw Baylor's playing a team, I think that's not even like a Division I or like an NCAA school. Hang on, I got to look at this. They're playing Arlington Baptist today, which I actually saw this on TikTok, actually. Their thing on Google, actually, because I'm looking at the schedule on Google, they have a 0-0 record. So hopefully we're not seeing another Bishop Sycamore like type thing where this team, I don't know. It's weird. I don't even know. So Interesting game for Baylor. I'm not sure what that does from a schedule perspective if you're not even playing a team that's like I don't even know. It says they have a 0-0 record, so I don't even know what to what I don't even know how you make an assumption like that, or what that does to a record or anything like that. But anyways, Arizona State, I think this is the time period in which we're going to see this who this team really is, because there's kind of been not necessarily an issue, but kind of an issue where it seems like ASU for the majority of the non-conference sort of played down the competition. They struggled at times in that UMass win. Obviously, you go back to the Cal Poly game, that was basically a shootout towards the end of it, and then several of the other non-conference games this season against lesser opponents have been closer than I'm sure Bobby Hurley would have liked them to be. So I think this is the point in time where ASU's got to go play a team in Provo and a BYU team who's also 9-2, and see how well they match up against them, especially on the road. ASU's toughest road tests, other than Florida and neutral site, they had to go into Gonzaga, into Spokane, and play Gonzaga, and that was really the last time they had a true like uh, away game against a I'm not sure what quad. I'm sure quad one or quad two opponent. Then you play Colorado at home, and then you got to go into Kansas, and which one of the toughest places to play. Although the last time ASU marched in there, they ended up winning. Um, I think if there's any shot for ASU to get a really good road win against an opponent, because you've got the advantage over Iowa State and Baylor that those are both home games, but I think this Kansas game on January 8th might end up being one of the most important games for Arizona State um, this season. And I think actually even that game may sort of determine the trajectory of what ASU basketball will go on to do the rest of the year. You're facing a tough opponent. Um, I'm not sure what just happened right there. I think I just kicked myself out of the studio, which was odd. That was weird. Okay, I think we're back in. Anyways, sorry about that. Um, I just kicked myself from my own show. Anyway, so yeah, I'm interested to see what ASU does. I think I'm also intrigued by uh, the addition they're making to the team. A guy that used to play with Jaden Quaintance in high school. I didn't even know that, like, I knew it was a thing for football where, like, I especially see with Bryce Underwood, which seeing Bryce Underwood in Michigan pads is like absolutely insane. That kid looks like he's already an NFL quarterback. I didn't even know you could add players from the 2025 class onto your current basketball roster and have them play the season. I didn't even know you could do that. So I'm interested to see how that goes down. Not the highest rated recruit ever, but um, a guy that's got that chemistry with Jaden Quaintance, and I think will help kind of fill possibly the role in which Austin Nunez had. So we will definitely see what he looks like come down the road. But a tough task for ASU basketball ahead these next couple of weeks, and it's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited to see them play. All right, the big game we're going to talk about, and unfortunately, couldn't get Jacob on to talk about ASU football today, so we're not going to talk a whole lot about it. But this is the big one coming up, New Year's Day, 2024 Peach Bowl, Arizona State taking on Texas. Um, this game, I think, honestly, is going to be one of the best, if not the best game so far from the college football playoff. I think when you look at the other games, obviously not super competitive. I thought that Tennessee Ohio State game was going to be super competitive when I saw all those Tennessee fans there. Their band was going crazy. Um, and the fans were calling it like Neyland North or something like that, which was the funniest thing ever. And this Ohio State team walked in the shoe, and I think proved a lot of people wrong. I know game day they all chose Ohio State, but I think there were a lot of people that I'm one as well that hasn't necessarily been the highest on Ryan Day all season long. I think that there's I don't even to be honest, I don't know how to explain or if there even is a way to explain the difference between the Ohio State team that played against Michigan and the Ohio State team that played against Tennessee. Because those are two drastically different programs. And I don't know if it was just the fact that Michigan's defense was just way tougher than Tennessee's defense, which I don't think at all is the case because Tennessee has a really, really good defense with a lot of talented guys and also a very young defense, as well as a very experienced defense. Um, so I don't know if that was just the case, but Ohio State just gave it to the Vols. And so that was actually a fun game to watch. That first quarter was quite interesting. But talking about to the game that we're focused on, the Peach Bowl, um, this is a game I think that's going to go down the wire. I think if anything, it's going to be back and forth. But I think there's one key for Arizona State when it comes to winning this game against Texas, and that is Cam Scatterbo. He's been the guy for Arizona State all season long, been getting it done, rushing the ball, top 5 rusher in college football. We saw what Texas was able to do. Um, against Clemson, essentially stopping the run. They only had 76 yards of rushing offense. And I think that rushing yard number is going to be the key for Arizona State if they want to win this game. Not necessarily just from Cam Scatterbo, but you got other guys like Sam Levitt who can run the ball too, and Cade Klubnik isn't exactly the most mobile quarterback. It isn't take off and run. I think the run game is really where Arizona State is going to have an advantage. I know Texas is one of the tougher run defenses in the country, but we've seen what ASU has been able to do against teams that are good at stopping the run. Obviously, Kansas State, and I mean Kansas State too. I think also Kansas State, especially after watching that Guaranteed Rate Bowl yesterday, they've been a completely different team since they played ASU, and ASU kind of stumped them. But we've seen ASU play against some really good run defenses, and they've really gave it to them. And so I think the key stat for this one, if Cam Scatterbo can rush for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, I think ASU is winning this game. I think 100%. I think that is the key. Get Cam Scatterbo over 100 yards and get him in the end zone twice, whether that's through the air and on the ground or just on the ground. I think that's going to be the key. On the defensive side of the ball for ASU, you obviously haven't faced as tough as a quarterback as Quinn Ewers this season, which I also personally don't think that Quinn Ewers is even the best quarterback on Texas's roster. I absolutely think that Arch Manning should be the guy over Quinn Ewers, but even with that being said, the ASU hasn't necessarily faced the caliber of a quarterback as they have with Quinn Ewers. And I say caliber because I think there's multiple things that falls under that category for Ewers. Obviously, one of the top rated recruits out of high school. You got a guy who's had a decent amount of experience at the college level. And he's faced some really, really tough opponents. So Quinn Ewers has been in situations where he's had to face tough opponents, and obviously had to just, get out of deep water and try to win a game. Um, and as much as Arizona State's secondary has been big for them this season, this is absolutely going to be the toughest game they face, and especially they're really going to have to. Their ASU's defensive line is really going to have to pick it up on New Year's Day with the absence of Shamari Simmons, who is going to miss the entirety of the first half after that targeting penalty that, in my opinion, shouldn't have been a targeting penalty against Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. I think that's obviously the key thing to point out. So I think Jacob Kangaika, CJ Fight, Clayton Smith, Prince Dorba, I think they're really going to have to step it up on New Year's Day against Texas and really pick up the load in the first half if ASU even wants to have a shot at keeping Texas from getting into the end zone. I think there's a lot more sort of like, I don't know how to word this. Like ASU, when I look at the two teams, I think there's a lot more to point out what ASU could do positively versus what they could do negatively in this game against Texas. But then again, I'm talking about a Texas team who is just a really, really good team, obviously making the SEC championship, falling short against Georgia, which I'm actually very excited to see how Gunnar Stockton does against Notre Dame. I've kind of seen the storylines where I think it was Jake Fromm who went down. I forget who came in from him. And then JT Daniels went down and Stetson Bennett steps up. And it's kind of been this thing where the last few times that Georgia has had a quarterback go down, they've had a backup come in and they ended up winning a national championship. So it's going to be interesting to see that. Um, and yeah, it's a crazy world where you never know what can happen, especially in the college football playoff. But to round it out, ASU, Texas. This is going to be a super exciting game. I'm super fired up to watch it, especially on New Year's Day when I'll be celebrating Christmas. Um, it's going to be a fun one to watch. So I'm looking forward to it. Another thing from this week that I wanted to talk about, just because it kind of caught my eye and I thought it was something I wanted to kind of highlight, was Miami's basketball coach. Um, Decided he was going to retire earlier this week because of various things, but um, mainly because of NIL. And it wasn't, like I say NIL, like, oh, he literally left because of it, but it certainly was a contributing factor, at least listening to press conference. And I've seen a lot of things like, oh, the way NIL there's two different perspectives when you look at NIL, and this is going to be a continuous conversation throughout, the next couple of weeks and stuff like that. But um, there's obviously the conversation where, oh, NIL is a thing that players should naturally be allowed to do, and they shouldn't be blocked by any government for um, not being able to make money off off their name, off their brand. There's this other conversation where NIL should not at all whatsoever be included in college sports because it's bad for it, and it doesn't do anything good. Well, to that I say, I absolutely do think it does do really good things for certain players. I mean, I look at situations where, some players might not exactly have it the easiest, might not have the best life situations, and NIL has really helped them out. And I've seen players who have stepped up big time, especially I think one of them you got to look at, Travis Hunter, who didn't benefit any money whatsoever from the collective, specifically Colorado's collective, and gave it all back to his teammates to, help them and stuff like that. And then there's the other conversation where NIL is pushing out a lot of these great coaches and a lot of stuff. And I think honestly, part of that conversation I just don't agree with. I don't think NIL is necessarily pushing out these coaches. I just think they're choosing not to accept that this is the world now, that NIL is what the future of college athletics and what really athletics is built upon. Because realistically, let's be honest, NIL is not that far away from reaching the high school scene. And we've already kind of seen it on the high school scene just a little bit. And I'm not saying, you know, I think, like, I know Arizona, the AIA has some bylaws where players can benefit off their name, image, and likeness as long as it's not actually associated with the school. I think we're going to see that a lot more. I think we've kind of already seen it with Koa P over at Perry just a little bit, which, by the way, Perry having another big basketball season, undefeated so far in the state. But and I look at all these coaches who, specifically, like looking at Kenny Dillingham and the way he's chosen to adapt, like, and he said this several times, like, this is the world we live in now, that players are going to make money off their name. And obviously they're going to leave places to go make more money because that's what's going to benefit them. I know the Miami head coach, he said the biggest thing was when they made the Final Four, he had 8 players who had already decided that they were going to leave because somebody was offering them more money somewhere else. And, I kind of get that. It's new, didn't really know how to handle it. But now that we're a couple years into that, I think a lot more people have the understanding of how to handle a situation like that if it comes up again. So I think in conclusion, basically what I'm saying here is that what NIL is really going to do, and I think what we're going to see it do a lot more over the next couple months, and also why I think Bill Belichick will have a lot of success in North Carolina when it comes to coaching, is that the NIL is meant for coaches who know how to navigate it while also being a good coach, like having culture and you know being good at what you do. From a coaching perspective is obviously important, but now you also have to do all these things like having skills, like, I know it sounds crazy, but contract negotiations and Obviously, you got to be really good at fundraising, which Kenny Dillingham has been really great at. And I think you look at another team like Oregon, I think Dan Lanning has done a great job being a really good recruiter. Obviously, he's got Phil Knight, so he Phil Knight's just tossing all the money in the world to him, and Dan Lanning hasn't really had to worry about NIL perspective. But I think Bill Belichick's going to be great because he's going to be able to navigate this world of NIL from his experience in working in the NFL. I think I look at even Jay Norvell over at Colorado State and know he's had some issues with NIL and players leaving and all that stuff. And I think that people should crack more. I do agree that I think there should be some more rules that really crack down on teams, quote unquote, tampering with players on certain teams and stuff like that. Um, but what this era of NIL is going to do, it's going to flush out all the coaches who don't understand it, um, and I think it's just really we're starting to see the shift, and oh, here's the next generation of coaches that are coming out. These other ones that are or I said that wrong. Here's the next generation of coaches that are coming in, and then the older generation of coaches that are going out. And it sucks to see because some of them are really great coaches. But I feel like this is something that always happens every decade or so. It comes with the way that football is. I think the one coach that has done a really good job at that has already been around for a pretty long time and is already doing a good job at building onto it is Lane Kiffin. What Lane Kiffin has done at Ole Miss is great. He's very relatable with his players. And I think he's really done good to NIL. I know his tweets are all over the place with college football, but I hope that made sense. Kind of what I've just been thinking about over the last couple of weeks. All right. I know that I said this was going to be a little bit of a shorter show today. It's the holidays. I got some family coming over and just, um, still in the holiday season. So want to wrap this thing up a little bit. Like I talked at the beginning of the show, the 2024 Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl is tomorrow between Colorado State and Miami, Ohio. I'll be there covering the game for Hypermark, which, by the way, if you haven't seen the field for the Arizona Bowl yet, it is awesome. It is super cool, really beautiful. So I'm excited to go see it in person tomorrow. I'm gonna be driving up early to Tucson. Several Arizona high school football alums playing in that game, and just two really good teams that have done a really good job this season. So excited to watch them. The Suns play two games this weekend. They play tonight against the Mavericks. I think this has got to be the first time that both of these teams have played each other without Luka and without Booker. Excuse me, sorry. So I'm super interested to see what that game looks like tonight. I think that game's at 5 o'clock actually. So about a half hour from now will be the tip off for that one. And then the Cardinals also playing in a game that doesn't matter whatsoever against the Rams on Sunday. Should be interesting. I have Matthew Stafford as my fantasy quarterback this week, which, by the way, made it to the fantasy championship. So I'm hoping that Matthew Stafford has a good game just for my sake and trying to win the championship. I did have Jalen Hurts, but then he got a concussion, so he's out. So I'm hoping that Matthew Stafford puts up some numbers this week and is able to get the job done. This is going to be the last show before ASU starts Big 12 play in basketball, and then obviously the big one, the college football playoff game against Texas next Wednesday. So it's going to be very exciting. I won't have a show next Friday. I'm going to be out at the Nike Tournament of Champions doing some stuff out there next Friday. So I guess with that being said, I hope everybody has a very safe and eventful New Year's. I can't believe we are already through 2024. Got to do some pretty cool stuff this year. First thing I did in 2024 was cover the Fiesta Bowls. That was a lot of fun. Obviously, got to cover ASU all year, which has been great. Joining Hypermark, pretty cool. I'm glad that they were able to give me this platform, do a show, and it's been a really fun year. But 2025 is going to be really exciting. I got a lot of cool stuff planned, and I'm really looking forward to it. So appreciate everybody tuning in as always, and don't forget to follow Hypermark on all of our social medias. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. I think we're even on Facebook too. I think we're on LinkedIn. If you do that, I need to do a better job of getting on my LinkedIn and updating it and stuff like that. I feel like that might be important for me now. Um, and other than that, yeah, it's thank you for everybody tuning in, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Have a safe New Year's.